are white-collar criminals, fraudsters. They know what they're doing. They took over Europe hundreds of years before they took over the United States. Very same cartel systems. Finance both sides of a war. Push social welfare nets really to control society. Create a dependent class. They know exactly what they're doing. And now they've gotten the pension funds, the city funds, the county funds, the water district, the school district, everything invested in the fraud. And so now they've created a giant black hole of derivatives impossible to pay off, but they hold everyone hostage saying, give us more, do what we say, or the whole thing comes down. It either comes down quickly and we become free, or it comes down slowly and they salami slice and take all of our liberties. Notice everything they do, government takeover of healthcare really is social engineering. It's done slowly. It's phased in over 4 or 5 years. Everything they do is about fraud. Oh, it's the law you take vaccines. Oh, it's not really the law, but we want you to get a waiver, but a waiver to something that isn't the law. Everything is about color of law fraud with these globalists. And I beg you out there to become aware of this and to realize what's happening and to speak out to others because, again, it's not just some regular corrupt system we've got. People that just want money. The globalists want total power over our genetics, over our lives. They want to play God. And coming up in about 30 minutes after our guest leaves us, I'm going to premiere here on the radio. The video is red linked up at Infowars.com. Humanity's Greatest Secret, Dreams of the Universe. And I don't have a religious show, but I don't hide when I'm passionate that I'm a Christian. And I don't mean a Christian like these Pharisees in the big churches, but that I believe in Christ. I have a relationship with God. I know the universe was created. I can feel the presence of God. I've had a lot of experiences that are private. It's like that Fleetwood Mac song, yeah, here they come, the crystal visions. Yeah, I keep my visions to myself. And when I put this video out, a lot of these Pharisees types, because obviously something powerful is going to scare people, are like, oh my gosh, it's Luciferian, you know, saying the universe created us. No, I said we came out of the creation, out of the universe. The creation, the globalist posing as atheist, the Satanists tell you that we were just burbled out of slime, not that we were created. But the point is that you got all these pinhead preachers who said the earth was flat, wasn't in the Bible. The Bible said it was round. The Quran said it's round for that matter. You've got all these pinhead preachers saying the earth's 6,000 years old when the Bible says a day was as a year and a year was as a day. All these dogmas of men so that they could advertise against the church across the street and say, we've got the real doctrine, they're all going to hell. And then somebody leaves their church and goes across the street, no, they're going to hell. This show is about waking people up to the spiritual and cultural blindness of the plastic corporate culture so that people will just think for themselves and realize there's more to the universe and realize the value of humanity. Realize that we can reach for the stars, that humanity has a better side. The globalists tell us we're trash, we're filth. Funny, these preachers are telling us that too. They tell us that we're trash, and the globalists tell us we're trash. But the truth is that we're made in the image of the Creator. We're not junk. And these preachers want to make you feel bad, so they're your God. You understand that? Instead of God being your God. They want to pray up on the hilltop in front of everybody instead of their prayer closet. So that's a little side issue. It was a small group of them. It's just that, my goodness, no wonder Christianity's dying all over the world because it's not real. What these people profess and put out is not real. And it's just amazing. But this isn't even religious, though. It's about how far humanity's come, the struggles our ancestors went through. And I do talk about evil breeding on this planet, that it's a fight between good and evil. Because it's a message to everybody to be aware of good and evil and to wake up to that larger fact. See, so many are deep in a trance. I'm trying to wake people up they're in a trance. Then they can go get henpecked by the Pharisees all day who all know it all and don't have any stick in their eye. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You know that we're in trouble when even Forbes magazine does an analysis of the UN Small Arms Treaty and finds, yes, this is written where they can register guns and then start banning them. No kidding, Unidir meeting. Just look it up at the UN when they first wrote this treaty. It's the same treaty today. Back in July of 2001, July 7th, said the civilian ownership of firearms threatens the legitimate power monopoly of the state. I don't know about you, but I don't think the state needs a power monopoly. In fact, can you imagine Thomas Jefferson hearing the U.S. governments try to sign on to a treaty saying that civilians should have their guns all taken because the state should have a monopoly of power? How about a separation of powers? Whereas I lean more towards total liberty and what extremists would call anarchy, I understand it doesn't work in large groups of people because there's always people that get together in gangs. And so, but that's what government turns into. So there's the anarchical capitalist argument right there. The point here is that we're repeating history right now. In Rome under Caesar, or in Latin American or African countries or Asian countries today, it's military coups. President Eisenhower in his farewell address warned us of the military-industrial complex, beware. He went on to say the technocratic elite that controls it, though. That part's always left out. Go watch the full film. It's online. Just type in full farewell address Eisenhower. Sounds like Alex Jones. The point is, Army, or Alex Jones sounds like Eisenhower. Army manual outlines plan to kill Americans, demonstrators, you name it. That's the Infowars.com article. The one that broke it is HongPong.com. That's Dan Feit's site. Warning shot will not be fired. MPs trained in martial law in America. And it's a 300-plus page. Well, one part of it's 300. There's more. Gun confiscation, mortar attacks, mass slaughtering. I mean, you want North Korea, baby, you got it. And again, you got the Secretary of the Army coming out calling for all this in Foreign Affairs a month ago or so. The question is, why are they gearing up for this? And by the way, well, they say for collapse, as if it wasn't engineered. I've been telling you for 14 years, I've been on air 17, about the planned derivatives collapse. I learned about it from George Humphrey, former Austin City Council member, economist, but more importantly, successful businessman, showing he knows what he's talking about. And it all came true. Like, as soon as George is back in the country, because he lives all over the world, he's got houses everywhere. Can we get him back in here, George Humphrey? Because he'll never talk about himself. I've got to dig up those shows where he laid it all out. Anyways, we're here. We're talking to Dan Feit, this segment and the next. Dan, I'm going to try to give you the floor. Folks watching at prisonplanet.tv can actually see the documents. They're in your article. They're in our article. This is a public PDF. Ties into all the other re-education camp documents, all of it. What does this signify? Again, you're a journalist. You've worked the Capitol beat there in Minnesota, broken a lot of big stories. You ferreted this out. Give us your analysis of this piece of training that they're giving the Army.
Sure. Good to be with you, Alex, once again. Essentially, this document fits into an important, larger context of similar documents, similar levels of planning for, extended domestic military operations under the command of the central federal government. And so this one includes warrantless search and seizure. It includes, a lot of talk about use of force inside military-operated domestic detention facilities. And it talks about searching for what they call dissidents/snipers and that kind of thing. And I think, if you're ever dealing with a situation where the military are on the streets of the United States, and in my personal experience, I worked at covering the 2008 Republican National Convention and the 2009 G20 conference in Pittsburgh. Those were both events where domestic military activity was at a particularly high level, as they are national special security events, as the RNC and DNC will be later this year as well. And those events are used to kind of run through plans that are similar to this or like this, or kind of the beginnings of implementation.
Yeah, they have snatch and grabs, you name it, because I like the city cordoning is in here too. Locking down cities is really friendly.
Right. Yeah, and so what I've discovered in early 2010 on a U.S. Army Corps of Engineer web server was a presentation that involved the national level exercise 2011 New Madrid seismic zone earthquake drill that was going on at that time, and accidentally left inside that PowerPoint were annotation notes about a different level of planning above this kind of training, and that plan is called Concept of Operations Plan, or CON Plan 3502. TV.04, which is held by the U.S. Northern Command, or NORTHCOM. The primary plan that NORTHCOM activates in coordination with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, each FEMA region has offices called DCO, or Defense Coordinating Offices, with about 20 or 30 or so military officers. And so CONPLAN 3501 is the sort of nice plan that's, used in the event of big disasters, activating helicopters. That's called Defense Support of Civil Authorities. So that's essentially NORTHCOM's #1 plan. And then their #2 plan is called Civil Disturbance Operations, CONPLAN 3502.
And that's all in law under John Warner Defense Authorization Act 2007.
Yeah. Yeah, and I should really point out that, again, if you want to get a real handle on how this domestic military situation works, be sure to look at something called the Domestic Operational Law Handbook for Judge Advocates. It has a big picture of the Statue of Liberty on the front of it. It's hosted on loc.gov, and that lays out a ton of detail. It talks about it cites how CONPLAN 3502 is the replacement for the old plan called Garden Plot, which was created in the 60s after the Kerner Commission reported on riots in the United States.
And really, it's a reissuance of Rex 84.
Yeah, so Rex 84 was another run-through of the Garden Plot type plan, in the same way that a national special security event is kind of a run-through of 3502.
Exactly. Here's the difference, though. I would guess, and you've done deep research on this as well, in fact, in some cases more than I, so give me your take on it. I would conservatively say there's probably 50 times the funding and actual training now than there was then. Everything looks like they're firing up the engines. They got the lights on. I mean, before it was little documents and Congress freaked out. Now this is everywhere.
Right. I want to point out there's another level that's developed outside the Pentagon as well. Inside the Department of Homeland Security, ICE, Immigrations and Customs Enforcement, has developed a new agency that they've retitled Homeland Security Investigations in the last few months. And this used to be called the ICE OI, Office of Investigations. So if you've seen these pictures of giant trucks being moved around that look like, I think they're called MRAPs, they are military trucks adapted for domestic use, and they're enormous, and they're distributing these across the country. So these HSI units are being pretty much run out of the same offices as other Homeland Security Customs Enforcement offices.
But you agree with me that this is 50 times what it was in the 80s. I mean, they're going operational is my point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, there are entire levels being built out on this. I mean, I just wrote up a quick blog post on this Civil Disturbance Operations document, which was found by publicintelligence.net. They do a great job. I really support their work. But we see more and more of these things being added up really quickly. And this new ICE HSI Homeland Security Investigations, they're getting their hands in everything. And one article I found said that they were the descendants of the cocaine cowboys of the 1980s, the SWAT teams that were tight with George Bush and the CIA stuff going on. So, we find, like, and I was the first person to kind of, like, point out this new HSI agency in a blog post and sort of satirize the sort of silliness that they have going on, like literally landing black helicopters, exercise at the Super Bowl, and stuff like that. So they're building up more and more of these different bureaucracies. But if we can get a sense of them, if we can get people to kind of track in on what these things are doing, going through primary source documents that are coming out quite a lot. Also, I want to point out, too, we need people to parse through document dumps. That's one thing that needs to happen. There's a good project called Echelon 2 with Barrett Brown that's looked at all these sort of data dumps that have come out of, through Anonymous and things like that. And then there's another one, a group that's mainly based in Europe called Telecomics.
Yes. We got to go to break. Stay there. I'm going to come back and try to give you the floor for that final segment and get you back during the week because your work's so important. But what you're saying is it's not just Dan Fite, it's not just Alex Jones, it's not just the Electronic Frontier Foundation. This stuff's everywhere, and the globalists are hiding this military buildup against us under hundreds of different configurations. But the point is they're going operational. This isn't just plans. They're taking over. They got troops dressed up as police killing people right now. Let me ask you a question. All right, we've got a special report I did on where did humanity come from? With God. I know the universe was created. I can feel the presence of God. I've had a lot of experiences that are private. It's like that Fleetwood Mac song, yeah, here they come, the crystal visions. Yeah, I keep my visions to myself. And when I put this video out, a lot of these Pharisees types because obviously something powerful is going to scare people, are like, oh my gosh, it's Luciferian, you know, saying the universe created us. No, I said we came out of the creation. Out of the universe are white-collar criminals, fraudsters. They know what they're doing. They took over Europe hundreds of years before they took over the United States. Very same cartel systems. Finance both sides of a war. Push social welfare nets really to control society. Create a dependent class. They know exactly what they're doing. And now they've gotten the pension funds, the city funds, the county funds, the water district, the school district, everything invested in for our genetics, over our lives. They want to play God. And coming up in about 30 minutes after our guest leaves us, I'm going to premiere here on the radio. The video is red linked up at Infowars.com. Humanity's greatest secret, dreams of the universe. And I don't have a religious show, but I don't hide when I'm passionate that I'm a Christian. And I don't mean a Christian like these Pharisees in the big churches, but that I believe in Christ. I have a relationship. Everything they do is about fraud. Oh, it's the law you take vaccines. Oh, it's not really the law, but we want you to get a waiver, but a waiver to something that isn't the law. Everything is about color of law fraud with these globalists. And I beg you out there to become aware of this and to realize what's happening and to speak out to others because, again, it's not just some regular corrupt system we've got. People that just want money. The globalists want total power over fraud, and so now they've created a giant black hole of derivatives impossible to pay off, but they hold everyone hostage saying, give us more, do what we say, or the whole thing comes down. It either comes down quickly and we become free, or it comes down slowly and they salami slice and take all of our liberties. Notice everything they do, government takeover of healthcare really is social engineering. It's done slowly. It's phased in over 4 or 5 years.